This is the Track and Field Report. The capital city of Portugal, Lisbon, is the scene of the latest exploits of British superstar Mo Farah. Farah, fresh off of breaking the indoor world record for 2 miles last month, has again turned his talents upon the task of smashing another record or two. In today's case, Mo is taking on the half marathon distance. The Portugal course is considered fast, as the current men's half marathon world record was set in the 20th edition of the classic back in 2010. Since that time, a host of runners have come close, but no one has yet to supersede the 58:23 set by Eritrea's Zani Tadasi. Farah, the double Olympic and world champion, would have his hands full today, as the race also featured 6 men who have run the distance faster than Farah. This opposing lineup featured Kenya's Mika Kimboi Kogo, the 10,000-meter bronze medalist from the Beijing Olympics, and Stephen Kibet, who ran his personal best of 58:54 on this course in 2012. Farah's opposition also included Silas Kipruto and Ethiopia's Gulye Adolja. These men and more were all on hand to challenge Farah for the spoils of victory and the tantalizing prospect of taking home an extra $100,000 if a new world record were established. Farah, known more for his victories on the track, was considered the race favorite, even though he was not the fastest man in the field. The race, contested in strong, swirling headwinds, made conditions less than ideal, as Farah stayed off the front pace set by Kogo and Kibet for the first half of the race and was at times more than 10 seconds off the lead pack. But the experienced Mo played his hand like a master and slowly made up ground on the two Kenyans, coming up to the 4x18 kilometers. Shortly after, Kibet started to fade a bit, but Kogo was staunch in his defense of first place. The Farah-Kogo duo passed 20 kilometers in 56:27, which was Farah's first official record of the day, as he smashed the European mark for the distance set back in 2001 by Spain's Fabian Roncero. But the race was far over, as Kogo dug in and jockeyed with Farah for supremacy over the next 10 kilometers. But the day was to be that of Farah, as his always deadly closing speed would prove to be the edge he needed to dramatically put down the efforts of the Kenyan. Farah would take the title in a new European and British record of 59 minutes 32 seconds, and would add even more drama with the spectacular fall just as he crossed the finish line. Fortunately, a slight bruise was the only sign of trouble for the ecstatic Mo. Farah has now won 4 of the 6 half marathons he has raced, coming second in the other 2. Kogo finished just 1 second behind, while Kibet was third in 59:55. The ladies' side featured Kenyan Rose Chalimo, who, fresh off a victory in San Blas, Puerto Rico, left no doubt as to who was the class of the field. Rose took command early in the race and was never dutifully challenged, as she ran solo to complete the Lisbon course in a time of 1:09:18, almost a minute ahead of Portugal's hometown girl, Sarah Moreira, who was delighted with their second place finish and time of 1:09:18.
Os atletas da elite partem de Algés. É por aquela questão que nós aflorámos no início da nossa transmissão, ou seja, houve aqui tempos extraordinários conseguidos.
The ancient city of Rome was again on display, as the 21st edition of the IAAF Rome Marathon was contested today against cold, rainy, unfavorable conditions. The 25,000-plus mass start would be the kickoff to a very fast race that featured a 15:055 kilometers, leading to an impressive 10K of 30 minutes 10 seconds, followed by a quick 1:04:08 by the halfway point. Impressive indeed, as the rains and winds were as equally an obstacle as the 42-kilometer distance. But the weather barrier would have its say in the proceedings, as the pace slowed considerably after the pacemaker dropped out at 25 kilometers, leaving 2 Ethiopians, Abiba Degefa and Brahane Akmi, to plot the course of the podium. By 30 kilometers, the race of speed became one of tactics, as the 1:31:36 revealed a slower pace had overcome the 2 leaders. However, the race for first was still intense. But it was Degefa, who had been behind for much of the race, who found that extra gear that would keep him ahead of his compatriot in the final meters. De Gever would cross the line victorious in 2:12:23, 12 seconds ahead of Acme. The women's race, like the men's, would feature Ethiopians in the form of Meseret Tolwat, Alam Kife, and Alamu Orage. The trio ran together through 35:16 splits for 10K and 1:15:06 for 30 kilometers. Not speedy, but steady. An Ethiopian sweep of the podium looked like a sure thing until Orage lost her pace in around 32 kilometers, leaving Tolwat and Kife to struggle for the top step. But it was to be Tolwat who had the warm jets on this cold day as she launched into a surge at 37 kilometers. Tolwat crossed the line in a slow but commendable mark of 2:30:25, more than 30 seconds ahead of the second place. On the track, David Rudisha's Tour of Australia was going according to the world record holder's plans as he was able to power his way comfortably to a 1:44.9 800-meter victory in the Melbourne Track Classic.
Risley, just for a moment there, we thought Risley could challenge the world record holder, Alex. Away in the hurls, and Pearson's off to a good start.
Another superstar back on form is that of Sally Pearson, as she has gone from good to bad and now back to good as she scores a victory in her specialty event. Sally's win underscores the season's first sub-13 second clocking in the women's hurdles. Back on track. And that's all for Track and Field Report. See you soon.
World Champs medals, Commonwealth Games medals, national titles. Imagine at home.